You're listening to the Unstoppable Teen Podcast, episode number 39. Welcome to Unstoppable Teen, the podcast for teenagers, parents, and teachers. My name is Kevin Mincher. Every week, we will bring you an inspirational person or message to help you experience more success and happiness. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's get this party started. Hello, Unstoppable Nation, it's Kevin here. Welcome to the show. In this episode, I'm going to share with you one technique that enabled me to improve my grades in 8 subjects in my last 6 months of high school. You see, as I'm recording this, I'm preparing to tomorrow go and travel to the University of Warwick here in Britain. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be working with students down there. Not students of the university yet. These are younger students who are still in high school, who maybe harbour ambitions of going to university one day. And they've got some really important tests and exams coming up. Here in the UK, we call them their GCSEs and A-levels. It's 16-year-old students do their GCSEs and the 18-year-old students do their A-levels. And there's a huge amount of pressure to revise, to prepare for these tests and exams, to cram all the information from the national curriculum into your head so that when you go into those final tests and exams, you can recall that information and get brilliant grades. And of course, while that goes on here in the UK, there are all kinds of SATs and other finals tests and exams that happen in the United States, in Canada, Australia, and all over the world. Now, many young people, as I go and work with them, sort of say to me, I don't know how to revise. I don't know how to study. I don't know how to prepare for a test or an exam. Now that freaks me out, to be honest. They've been going to school for 11, 12, 13 years of their life, and yet they still don't know how to study effectively. And that's often because in schools we focus on what to learn rather than how we learn effectively. So in this quick episode, I'm going to give you a simple tip, a technique that I used that you can use, and I think will make a big difference. So stay tuned. So here we go. It turns out that the brain learns more effectively when you give it a little bit to learn and often. A little and often. Not a lot all at once, but a little bit and often. It spooks me and it gives me great concern when a student says to me the week before or the month before a test or an exam, that tonight, Kevin, I'm going to sit down and study the entire subject of science. Now, of course, that's a slight over-exaggeration, but of course the problem is sitting down the night before, the week before, a month before an exam usually leaves you with too much to study and not enough time within which to study it. You might skim through some things, but you won't necessarily have the depth of understanding that you need to be able to recall the information freely and easily. You see, we learn best a little and often. You're better off starting your revision and preparation for tests and exams 3 months, 6 months, a year, or even further back down the timeline than that. And instead of sitting at a desk for hours on end, hour after hour. That's what my sister used to do. We got to that final furlong. We're in the final month before those final tests and exams. And my sister, she's 3 years older than me. She would come home from school. She would sit at her desk and she would cram until there was steam coming out of her ears. She would cram and get stressed and cramming and, so much stress. She'd be there for hours. She might appear in the kitchen for some food at some point in time, and then she'd go back up there and repeat the process of more cramming and cramming for hours and hours. Now, not only was that an ineffective way to study, it also created a huge amount of stress. You're not moving your body very much. It can become really boring. And here's the thing. There's a limit to how much the brain can take in at any one point in time. It's a phenomenal thing, is the human brain. But if you overload it with too much information, it doesn't understand it. You've got to give it a little bit, and you've got to give it often. And so the thing that I learned to do was in my final 6 months as I was building up towards my tests and exams was to do a little bit and often. And I called it the 20-minute rule. Little did I know back then that this was a thing. You know, a thing. Somebody had given it a name. It had been invented before. It was called the Pomodoro Technique. Apparently, there was some dude called Francesco, who was an Italian. He was studying in Italy he was at university at the time. This was way back in the 1980s. And he realized that he learned more effectively in small chunks. And he would set a kitchen timer. It's called the Pomodoro Technique. Those of you into Italian would know that Pomodoro apparently translates to tomato. It's not because you need a tomato to do it, but apparently he had a kitchen timer that lasted for 20 minutes, and it was in the shape of a tomato. And that's why it became known as the Pomodoro Technique. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is that you start to understand that apparently, according to some researchers, the human brain can take in up to 7 things at any one point in time. For some people, it's a little bit less than that. For some people, it's a little bit more. But on average, it's 7. And if you think about it, there are a lot of things throughout history, effective book titles and teachings that have all got 7. Like you might have the 7 deadly sins, the 7 habits of highly effective people, the magnificent 7. It's this magical number. And it turns out that the human brain works best in these small chunks of 7. So rather than sitting down and studying the entire subject of science all at once, you should try to learn 7 things about science in 20 minutes and then take a break. You see, it turns out that the human brain has got some natural biorhythms where it enables itself to concentrate really well, and then the concentration sort of fades a little bit. And then it comes back again. And it does this in 20-minute cycles. Now, it makes sense that you would want to be studying when your concentration is high. That's when you learn best. And so if your concentration is low, it's a little bit of a sign that you're in one of those dips. So it kind of goes like this. You want to study when your concentration is high, when you're alert, when your brain is focused. After around about 20 minutes, that concentration will start to fade a little. And as it does, I encourage you, this is what I did, I gave myself permission to have a little break. And I only had like a 1 to 2 minute break. I said 1 to 2 minutes, not 1 to 2 hours. Okay? And so you take your short little break, and in that little break, you do a couple of simple things. You hydrate your body and you oxygenate your body. In other words, hydrate your body. Drink some water. And that will help you concentrate more when you come back to your studying again. And then you need to oxygenate your body. In other words, you need to take some deep breaths. Now, I didn't just sit there cross-legged and meditate like a Buddha. Although you could do that, that would be fine. But what I used to do is I like to be more active than that. So for 1 to 2 minutes, I'd go out in the backyard and I'd kick a football, a soccer ball against a wall, or I'd do some juggling, or I'd hit a tennis ball with a racket, or I'd jump on my bike and I'd cycle around the neighbourhood for a minute and then come back in. I'd go back upstairs and learn 7 more things in another 20 minutes. At the end of those 20 minutes, as my concentration started to fade, I'd go outside and hydrate and oxygenate again, drink some water, move my body, take some deep breaths, come back in, learn 7 things in 20 minutes, and I would repeat this cycle. 7 things in 20 minutes, short break. 7 things in 20 minutes, take a short break. And I used to do that in 2 to 3 hour blocks. Now, here's why. It turns out that most exams, certainly here in my home country, are 2 to 3 hours long. And what that means is we need to train ourselves to be able to focus for those extended periods of time. Of course, if I was an athlete and I was going to go and run the marathon, you would want me to know that I could train myself to run that distance before the actual competition came along. And the same is true for students when it comes to tests and exams. You see, oftentimes we only have hour-long lessons in school, and yet you're going to do a 2 to 3 hour test or exam. So you're going to train yourself for that. So that's what I did. I learned 7 things in 20 minutes, took a short break, 7 things in 20 minutes, short break, and I'd do that for 2 to 3 hours. At the end of 2 to 3 hours, I'd have an extended break that might last for another, hour or 2. Then I'd come back and do another study block. This is the law of small chunks. The law of small chunks is something that made such a big difference to me when I was studying back in high school. My grades started to accelerate. My French grade went from grade E to a grade B. My business studies went from a grade D to a grade A. It really made a difference. And it didn't just make a difference to my learning, it made a difference to my emotions as well. You see, I wasn't getting stressed like my sister did. I wasn't starting to panic and have anxiety because I was regularly getting away from the desk and hydrating myself and oxygenating myself. It turns out that your emotions have a massive impact on how well you learn and how much you remember. You see, if you get yourself into a stressed and anxious state, the part of the brain that deals with memory starts to shut down and become a little bit inhibited. So you could be sat there at your desk trying to learn stuff, and you think it's going in, but then it becomes very difficult to recall at a later date. See, learning is state dependent. And so it's important, I'm talking about emotionally state dependent. I don't mean like government state, I mean your emotional state. Learning is emotional process as well as a logical one. And so it's really important that in the learning experience, you keep yourself calm. And those regular breaks enable you to do it. 7 things in 20 minutes. Take a short break. 7 things in 20 minutes. Take a short break. 7 things in 20 minutes and then take a short break. Now, it's really important in the short break that you do not go onto social media. You don't turn on the TV, you don't go surfing around on the internet, because if you do that, your 2-minute break will turn into 2 hours. It's really important that you stay disciplined and focused on the results that you want and the process that you're in to get the results that you want. Here's what I did with my friends. We just agreed with each other that we'd all be studying at the same time. We're all going to start at 9 a.m. and we're all going to finish at 11 a.m. And that means that I don't have to feel like I'm missing out on anything. I don't have to call them. I don't have to text them. I don't have to jump on social media. We all know that we're all studying at the same time. And then at 11 o'clock, we'd all get together and hang out for an hour or two. Come back and do some more work later on. So I hope that this little chunk, this idea of small chunks, is useful for you. There are lots of other tips and strategies that I'm going to be sharing with the students down at the University of Warwick over the next couple of weeks. And if you want to find out what more of those are, then there's a couple of things that you could do. First of all, I want you to know that you can download my free guide. It's called the 21 Effective Study Skills. If you haven't got it already, it's free for everyone. Simply go to the show notes for today's episode. Now, this is episode 39, so all you need to do is go to unstoppableteen.com/39, and there'll be a link there as to where you can download my free guide, the 21 Effective Study Skills. Never again do you need to sort of worry and go, I don't know how to study, because we've created a free guide that gives you the 21 effective study skills. Also in the same guide, there's 2 bonus strategies, and I call them the super strategies. So in actual fact, there are 23 study techniques that when you put them together, when you use those strategies inside the 20-minute small chunks that I've just been describing, and as you practice them over a period of time, then I think you'll start to notice that just like for me, my grades went up, there'll probably be some benefits for you as well. Of course, I can't guarantee that this technique will, just because it get me from an E to a B and from a D to an A, will do exactly the same for you. There are many factors that affect your grades, including the home that you live in, the quality of the teaching that you're getting, the school that you attend, and all kinds of other lifestyle routines as well. And because there are so many factors, we're going to make sure that we keep giving little tips like this out in future episodes of the Unstoppable Teen podcast. And that's why, if you want to get more tips, I really encourage you to subscribe to the show. There are many places that you can do that. You can do it on iTunes, SoundCloud. You can do it at our own website, unstoppableteen.com/subscribe. And we're just about to start publishing these episodes on YouTube. So why not go and check out Unstoppable Teen on YouTube if that is your preferred social media channel. Now, if you've got any questions, you want some help because you've got an important test or an exam coming up, then get in touch. You can reach out to me with your questions. As you can imagine, I'm a busy guy and I can't always reply immediately, but I do always get back to people that send us questions. So if you have a question for me and you want some tips and advice on anything, not just memory and study skills and preparing for tests and exams, but on anything, if you want help to do with controlling your emotions and, overcoming anger or improving your self-confidence, if you don't know what you want to do for your career, strategies for improving your health, whatever it may be, get in touch. You can do that via our social media channels. You'll find us on Instagram, Twitter, of course, Facebook as well. But probably if you want to keep it private, the best way to do that is just ping us an email. And you can do that podcast@unstoppableteen.com. That's podcast@unstoppableteen.com. There you go, folks. That's it. It's the law of the small chunks. It's actually a technique that I've taken out of my Get the Grade You Want seminar. I'll be sharing it with students at the University of Warwick real soon. If you'd like me to come and share more of these techniques in your school, then by all means, get in touch via the website, via the social media channels, or the email address I provided earlier. If you have got some tests and exams coming up, I hope they go well for you, and I have no doubt that if you use the Pomodoro Technique, the tomato technique, or as I used to call it, small chunks. You use those little 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 7 things in 20 minutes, 7 things, 20 minutes. If you do that, you'll be helping yourself achieve more with less stress, more effectively, better grades. That can only be a good thing. I look forward to returning real soon with more hints and more tips. In the meantime, use this one, and I'll see you soon. Be unstoppable. Bye for now.